everybody, it's your old pal Rob. Now, today I wanted to cover something that I've always kind of wanted to cover for a while. Here we are in the last throes of this, that's an old familiar sound, right? The dog's drinking water in the background. For some of you that have been around for a long time, you know that. Our studio's broken down, and we've got it almost moved over to our storage center that we're going to be in a week or so. Actually, a week from today, we'll be leaving this place. I'm going to miss it very much. But I wanted to talk to you guys and ask a particular question. What do you consider the most important dungeon crawl board game ever made? The one that is the most influential, the one that people go to and say, yeah, when I think dungeon crawl, I think that game. And there's a couple that come to mind, and I'm going to give you different reasons for each. I don't, these are not my assessments of them, but when I think of dungeon crawls and popularity and things that really stand out, these really stand out. You have to consider Heroquest. You have to consider Descent, whether the first, second, or third, whichever one you favor, okay, because of the name value and what it's meant over the years and its longevity. And if you had to go newer, that brought more people into it, even though people very controversially either love this game or completely hate this game, Gloomhaven. Because when you start thinking, even though it's not a traditional dungeon crawl, and we'll start with that, I guess, you have to admit that people that are Euro players and things like that never really played dungeon crawls play this game and this adventure because, or play dungeon crawls, are more apt to play dungeon crawls because of the Euro feel to Gloomhaven and soon to be Frosthaven. I really think that's one that you have to, really take a look at and think about, and the overall appeal that it has had. It has really added to the popularity of dungeon crawl board games. Again, we can't count Dungeons and Dragons and all that other stuff. You can even go if you want to really stretch it a little far, you could say the dungeon crawl box games from WizKids, if you want to consider that. You can consider anything. It really depends on what your outlook is. Some people say swords and sorcery. Some people say Dungeon Saga. Yeah, believe it or not, some people really do say Dungeon Saga. There's a lot of things that Warhammer Quest you can count. But I think that's something that kind of evolved from Heroquest. Do you consider Heroquest maybe being the greatest, most influential dungeon crawl board game of all time? I mean, if you really think about it, the simplicity, Milton Bradley coming out with this thing, bouncing off, from the 80s, off of the Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of people tried. But when this finally came along with its expansions, did it set the groundwork? A lot of people complain that it's too simple, it's too this, it's too that, it's too beer and pretzel. But is this another one like Gloomhaven back in its day that you have to hold into account of all the people that have so many memories from it, okay? And how many people got into Dungeons and Dragons and all the other kind of dungeons crawl type of stuff, whether pen or paper or whatever, through this particular medium or this particular game. I mean, it has to be considered. And then, of course, later on, Fantasy Flight with Descent. The very first Descent. How that went along and how overwhelming and how enduring and how long it lasted, and how the old Fantasy Flight took and took it miles and miles. And then into the second edition, even the third edition, with the app and all that stuff. Descent is a very key word in dungeon crawls. Do you consider that maybe the all-time? Or maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe there's something I haven't hit on. Advanced Heroquest, well, it's still part of Heroquest. Warhammer Quest, my favorite of all time. I think, when you take the Warhammer fantasy world and you mix it together with a type of Heroquest, Advanced Heroquest, you can't help but get something, that, as far as I'm concerned, which it still endures today, one of the greatest one of the greatest dungeon crawl board games of all time. But I really feel that if you really take a look at it and you look overall and how things go, one of these three, or maybe one I missed, really stands as the benchmark. Now, you have Massive Darkness, you have Dungeon Saga, you have all these games that have kind of taken a little bit of something from each one of these games and really stands out and really has its strength. But if you have to say the benchmark or the games that are sitting out there that are being derived now and that are being created now, where do you think they pull the most from? Okay, what board game do they take the most from? What is the foundation that most people say, I want to build my own type of dungeon crawl, add a few twists, but my foundation starts with A. My foundation starts with B. I look forward to hearing what you guys think, what you might perceive maybe is the greatest dungeon crawl game, board game, or most game that stands out as possibly the greatest dungeon crawl of all time, most influential. I really would love to hear what you guys have to say. So please leave your comments in the comments below, of course, or email me at novaprime860@hotmail.com. Let me know what you feel is the benchmark for the greatest dungeon crawl board game of all time. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. So until next time, it's your old pal Rob. We'll see you soon.